And joining us right now on the Rothman Orthopedics guest line from inside the Birds, NFL insider, the one, the only Mr. Adam Caplan. What's going on there, Adam?
Mark, good to talk to you this fine day and getting ready for what should be an interesting weekend, what we call the super wildcard weekend of the National Football League.
Really, it really is crazy with the extra game during the season, extra playoff team that they added last year and kept it this year. Of course, one bye for one team this year. It's insane what the NFL has done this season. But what is on top of all of that and on top of all of our minds right now are the Philadelphia Eagles versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Sunday, 1 o'clock kickoff in Tampa. Do they have a chance, Adam? Do they have a chance against Tom Brady and Tampa?
Sure. Okay. I don't want to say they have to play the perfect game, but it's going to have to be close to it because they're the defending Super Bowl champions. They brought back every starter, which typically does not happen, but they made a decision to run it back. The Bucs changed the way they did contracts just to accommodate a lot of the veterans to bring them back. And look, the Eagles got smoked at home. They don't let the score fool you. They're down 28-7 at one point. And they made the game closer. The points closer than really the game was for three quarters. They made it 28-22 or something like that. If I recall correctly, they were down 28-7 at one point. But they're a better team than they were then. And the Bucs still have one of the best run defenses. And we know the Eagles, Mark, really since that time, it was really the game after that, the game against the Raiders, that they completely changed their philosophy on offense. And now they're running offense instead of a passing offense.
Mm-hmm. Now, when you look at this season, one of the things I was saying on yesterday's show was the most pleasant surprise from this season was Nick Sirianni. Like in terms of what we thought we were getting here as the Eagles head coach, from his introductory press conference to how he started calling plays to the rock, paper, scissors to the flowers, the whole thing. Yeah. What has been, in your mind, the most pleasant surprise about this Eagles season?
Yeah, because I knew guys who coached with him, and I don't know Sirianni personally. I've been in front of him. The opening press conference, I don't overreact like a lot of the media does because, I do this for a living. So I kind of know. I had intel on the guy. I know he's a super high energy guy. Two coaches that I really know well gave me great information on the guy. So he's been, from a performance standpoint, in terms of energy, and he coaches his coaches, and he's a tireless worker. There's a lot to like about him, but there's a saying in the National Football League, Mark, is you don't know till you get there. You really don't know how the guy's going to be in terms of day-to-day. How does he deal with adversity when they're 2-5? I didn't think they'd turn the season around. I'm not going to lie. I picked them. I do what's called a win range for every NFL team. I give the Eagles 7-8. They surpassed that by one. They have 9 wins, and obviously the Dallas game they didn't care about. They didn't care about the 6th seed, so they took that as a preseason game. But overall, they've been better than expected. Sirianni's been a little bit better than I thought because you don't know until they have adversity. When they're in 2-5, and the flowering comment and all that. Look, I kind of laughed like most of the people did, but I got what he meant. You're planting the seeds. You're just hoping over time, this is what we're going to be. But just to summarize what you asked, there's really no way to know that they'd be able to turn the team around, and that they become a running offense. There was nothing to suggest that they would do that. Now, I know other people would say, well, why didn't they do this in the beginning? Only the head coach can understand that or speak about it. But the fact that he did it, they've been so good at it, is pretty remarkable.
Mm-hmm. Will they be able to do it against a team like the Bucs?
They'll try because they're not gonna get in a throwing match unless they have to. You wouldn't want to do that against Brady. Now the Bucs will come out passing because that's what they do. Now it would help if they have Miles Sanders. We'll see. I'd still put him in the questionable category right now. I know the Eagles are hopeful and somewhat optimistic, but until he practices and gets cleared for contact, we're not going to know. Now, they return to practice on Wednesday. They'll practice Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, walk through, then fly to Tampa Bay in the afternoon. Hopefully, he gets cleared to play because they need him in a big way. He's their best running back by far. He is the most explosive back that they have, and they have to have him to have a chance to win. I know this is a little bit bold to say this. If he doesn't play, they're not going to win. They're not going to have a chance to win. They won't be able to move the ball as well as they could on the ground. Now, because they're so good at running it, they're committed to it, they'll be able to do some things to take away the ball from Brady, but he's going to get the ball. And when he gets the ball, the Eagles have to at least try to stop him a little bit better than they did in the first matchup. What
about Jordan Howard, you think? You think he'll play on Sunday?
He's another one. He's got to get cleared. Remember now, he's got the 2 injuries. The one is the shoulder. Now, he should play because he played with it. And he had the sprained knee. I don't believe the sprained knee is much of a big deal as it was before. And now he's had 2 weeks off here. We'll have almost 2 weeks off. The good thing is that they kind of know who he is. They know what his role will be. If Sanders plays, he won't have to have the major role that he had before when Sanders hasn't been there. But the fact of the matter is, if they could have all these guys working here, it's going to be something else. I mean, they know they can run the football, Mark. There's no question about it. Though, again, the Bucs have a top 3 run defense against opposing running backs. But, again, the Eagles have run against everybody. It's not like they can't do it. So, and I'm sure they're going to try.
All right. Let me switch gears for a second here. I'll ask you about Jalen Hurts a little bit later. But there's some news about Jonathan Ganon potentially talking to the Denver Broncos as a head coaching candidate. What are you making of that news that came out from the NFL Network?
Yeah, no, I was expecting him to be interviewing with George Payton, the GM. Why? The 2 of them were together with the Vikings. This was not a surprise. Ganon, despite what some of the fans think, and I've been critical, Jeff Mosher's critical. We have been on Inside the Birds. The guy's a talented coach. He was coming in as one of those hot head coaching candidates for the future. He's going to get this interview. At some point, he'll do it. He's highly thought of around the league. I still have my questions with him as a defensive coordinator. But you know what? Their defense turned around the season. They're not, they're a competitive defense. I know that their schedule has been great. It's lined up pretty well for them. And their points against are great. Jim Schweitzer used to talk about it a lot. You always talk about, okay, how many points are we giving up per game? And that's key. But now we're facing the best of all time in Tom Brady. So we'll see how the Eagles do against Brady and how Ganon calls this game this Sunday.
If that does happen, if Jonathan Ganon goes out there to Denver, and I know this isn't a trade, and I know the guy's already been fired, but what would you think of Vic Fangio coming here to Philadelphia as the DC?
Well, the Eagles are running a hybrid defense. Their base technically is a 43, but they run a lot of 34, and they change a lot. The defense would have to change. You wouldn't have the right personnel. He runs a strictly old school 34. He is going to be just as Brian Flores will be. Vic Fangio, if he wants to still coach, will be a highly coveted defensive coordinator. I remember talking to the Bears right before he got the Broncos head coaching job. They love him. That one Bears source called him a savant, special. You're talking about one of the legendary defensive coordinators in NFL history. In fact, a lot of people don't know this. He was with the Philadelphia Stars staff in the mid '80s, that USFL team.
Really? What, Jim Mora Sr. and those guys?
Yes, he worked under as a young assistant. He was on at least one of the years he was on Moore's staff there.
Wow. Okay. Well, I did not know that. Include me in one of the many people that did not know that. By the way, you guys can consume the latest episode of Inside the Birds with Adam Caplan and Jeff Mosher, wherever you get your podcast. The episode is hot, and it's out there right now. To flip it back to this modern-day Eagles team, Jalen Hurts, how much has he climbed the mountain for you as looking at him as either a starting quarterback in the NFL or a franchise quarterback from next year and on? What is Jalen Hurts to you right now?
Yeah, the franchise quarterback doesn't play in the equation. Neither the Eagles know that. They're not looking at him as a franchise quarterback. What they're looking at, or at least hope, is he could at least be in the conversation to be the quarterback in 22. That's where we're at here. He's shown flashes. He had a great game against the Cardinals last year when he brought them back after taking that safety. The reason why the Eagles lost it wasn't because of Hurts. He played actually really well after that first tough series. It's because their defense didn't stop the Cardinals. You see flashes. The Denver game, he was terrific. He's had a couple great games here and that were above average. Then he had some clunkers. The last Giants game, the first half of that was bad, better in the second half. The first Giants game, the second half of the second game was better. The first Giants game was horrific. They shouldn't have lost that game, but they did, 14-7. But, overall, he's shown flashes. He has to be more consistent.
Okay.
Now, one thing I would tell you, and this was actually my friend Greg Cosell brought it up on our pregame show with Jason Avant, Mosher, and I last week. He's like, you can't. It was one game. Let's say Hurts is terrible in this game against the Bucs. If you thought Jalen Hurts should be in the conversation to be the starter next season, are you going to say now he's not because he had a bad game against the Bucs? I would say no. You have to take. It's part of his evaluation. Now, consequently, if he plays great and they somehow win, do you change your mind? I mean, you have to put it in proper perspective. One thing we don't do on Inside the Birds is we never overreact to one game. It's bad or good and say, okay, he's not the guy anymore, or he is the guy. It's over a series of games that's exactly how the Eagles will evaluate him.
May I suggest just overreact once? It's a lot of fun. I do it all the time. You're going to be going out to the Senior Bowl in not too long. You're going to be looking at a lot of the guys that are be coming in. Does anybody in that class, in that draft class, do you think, is anyone a legit threat to take Jalen Hurts' spot just from the draft class, not free agency and all the names that are out there in free agency or maybe available via trade? But do you see anyone in this draft class that would be a threat to Hurts next year?
Well, again, it's depending on what the Eagles decide to do. And I strongly believe if they don't trade for quarterback or they don't sign a veteran that they'll draft a quarterback. I'm not saying it's going to be in the first round. They're not there yet on their decisions on the quarterback yet. So they'll do that once their season's over. Sirianni will sit down with them. I know he talks to them all the time, the front office, but there are bigger personnel meetings when the coaches get involved when their season's over. This happens in every NFL building. And then they have to have hard opinions on where they think the quarterback position is at. But with the Senior Bowl, Kenny Pickett, who I was told he's good. The last I had heard he was going to go to the Senior Bowl. He is regarded as the best quarterback for this class. He should go somewhere in the middle of the first round right now. Now, he could go in the top 10 if he has a great week. Again, if he's still going to the Senior Bowl, he would be the guy that could potentially be an Eagles draft pick. He'd fit. He's good, pretty good athlete. Good size, good arm, high character kid. He'd fit in real well. And by the way, he grew up as an Eagles fan.
Oh, wow. I did not know that. Okay. All right. When it comes to the front office and what they plan to do with these 3 first-round picks, do you think that they're leaning quarterback? Do you think that you're going to use one of those picks at that position, or is that still, you said, to be decided?
Yeah, 2 to be determined. They don't know yet.
Okay.
They can't really do anything until the coaches are done. Like, they could have their opinions. Mm-hmm. They'll have personnel meetings in January once the Eagles are done, assuming they're done in January. I think we all would be, but would assume, but you never know.
Right,
right. 2017 to start that season, but moving forward here, it's going to come down to where they're at with Hurts again, what they identify as their needs. We know what their needs are. Wide receiver, they have to do something significant at wide receiver. Again, they're going to have to do something, whether it's in free agency at the draft. They'll have to do at least something. One guy they got to add that's significant. They're going to need to add defensive linemen because they got a lot of guys' contracts are up at DN. They need help there. They need depth on the D line. Fletcher Cox is getting older. Not that they're going to spend a first-round pick on a linebacker. They certainly wouldn't do that. But they need an upgrade at linebacker. They need corners. They need help. I mean, that's what makes it, Mark, so remarkable that they're making the playoffs. Because not only did I not believe this would happen, at 9-8. They're a little bit above average, I think, if we're being fair here, with some upside. But the reality is, and I know talking to the Eagles, they know who they are. This is not – they don't think they're like a Super Bowl team right now. Now, could they shock the world? Mm-hmm. Sure. But the reality is they need a lot of help here.
Certainly. Do you think that they'll use all 3 first-round picks, or do you think they're going to trade one?
No idea. I mean, Mark, again, we're not even at the Senior Bowl yet. We're in January on the playoffs. But I would say this, though, on your question. Because of where the unique situation where they are, the Dolphins were not as bad as we thought. They fired their head coach, but they're 9-8. The Colts are, well, obviously they ended their season badly. Eagles love that, but Eagles fans love that. But their picks are somewhere in the middle of the first round, so they could use them to move up. Certainly, if there's a player that they deem like it could be a corner, it could be a D end, who knows? Because, by the way, the underclassmen declare this week, so we'll know more about the underclassmen. But I wouldn't rule out anything because the great thing about having these 3 first-round picks, there's a lot of maneuverability available to them.
Understood. Adam, before we close this out, I have to ask you the question that we always ask. We always like to get in here is the Ben Simmons situation. Where's he going? Yeah. When is he going there? What is happening here?
I wish I knew, man. I give Daryl Morey credit in this. As he said, before the season started, he wasn't going to give him away. He wasn't going to take a bunch of role players. I respect that. I'm past the point of frustrated. I'm kind of like resigned to the fact that this could take all year. You see every rumor. My friend Mark Stein, who I used to work with at ESPN, had a report. I think he put out about it might have been the Hawks might have some interest or something like that. But in the end, when he gets traded, whoever that is, whatever month that is, whatever year that is, I just hope they get big-time players in return because I would hate for Joel Embiid to end his career without a championship. With his injury history, Mark, the clock is ticking, and I think that Daryl Morey needs to understand that.
I'm with you there 100%. I do want to circle back to one thing. You mentioned Carson Wentz. Is he just a guy that can't get out of his own way? That superhuman gene, whatever, the superhero gene, where he just thinks he can make a play on any given play, no play's dead? Like, why can't he get back to the point that he was at in 2017?
I would say this, though. Up till the last couple of weeks ago, he's had a pretty solid season now for a while because Jonathan Taylor had been so good they weren't asking him to throw very much. But I don't know if you remember the Monday night game at Baltimore. He and Lamar Jackson had one of the best games I've ever seen. If you thought the Sunday night game, and it was great, Derek Carr, particularly Justin Herbert, were great, that was one of the best regular season games. Wentz, where he put the team on his back for over 400 yards against Lamar Jackson. That was such an awesome game. I mean, I don't know if I call Wentz the comeback player of the year because the way the season ended. So I probably won't do that. I have to vote in two polls. One of them for the NFL, the Pro Football Writers Association. But I definitely want to say he improved over last year. I think that's obvious. But the Colts, look, that by contract, they can't cut him. The question is, would they look to move him after the way he ended the season? To me, it's such a year mark at quarterback. I'm already doing work on it. I've got 10 to 12 teams that don't know who their starting quarterback is going to be for 2022. The Colts have to be careful here. And this is not a great year for the draft, at least on paper for the early word that I've gotten. Though we may see 4 to 6 quarterbacks go in the first 50 picks, it doesn't mean they're great.
Right.
As we learned with Mitch Trubisky and others, the quarterback and Mark Sanchez, they get overdrafted. Mm-hmm. So this is not a great year to need a quarterback, and you got to be careful. I think that's the thing. It's like fans want this quarterback out, that quarterback out. Well, it's great to say that, but let me know who you think you're going to be able to get.
His name is Adam Caplan, ladies and gentlemen. Check him out with Jeff Mosher on Inside the Birds podcast. Wherever you get your podcasts, you guys do a phenomenal pregame show as well as part of the Inside the Birds network. Mosher referred to it once on this show as the Empire, the Inside the Birds Empire, and I think I like that. I like you guys being emperors. That's a nice thought.
Well, we've got a YouTube channel, Facebook page. We've got the Sunday pregame show with myself, Mosher, Greg Cosell, and Jason Avant. The fans are like in love with Greg and Jason. They just think they're like the best thing ever. We are too. They're just phenomenal. And as our motto in Inside the Birds, if you don't learn something watching, then we're not doing our job. And apparently by the comments, we're doing a good job. We appreciate it. All the support. We appreciate your support, Mark, as well.
Of course. You guys are great. Appreciate it every time you guys come on the show, no matter how short notice it is.
It's all good, man.
My man. Adam, thank you so much. Safe travels to you. I know you're going to be bouncing all over the place, my friend. Thanks so much.
Appreciate it. Thanks, man.
Adam Caplan joining us here on the Rothman Orthopedics guest line.